My name is Ashley, and this program is called Teen Survival Guide and is brought to you by the Gwinnett County Public Library. Going to school and or trying to prepare for your future is stressful enough, but it's even harder to do if you or someone you know is living through circumstances they can't control, like food insecurity. In this program, we will look at resources that may help you if you or someone you know has experienced homelessness, food insecurity, or human trafficking. We will also look at ways to locate other resources that might help. This program cannot give you all the answers to solve those issues, but it will give you resources to explore to alleviate some of that stress. We will also go over some information about those topics for those looking for an opportunity to help. Here we have two options for locating resources in your area, or if you are looking for something that isn't mentioned in this program. So findhelp.org uses your zip code to locate resources near you for topics like food, housing, goods, transportation, health, money, care, work, and legal services. For the library, we have something called GCPL Guides. By going to the address listed here, lib.gwinnettpl.org, you can select Social Services and then select the tab most relevant to your needs. This program will be divided into these 4 topics in this order. If you need to skip around to get the information most useful to your situation, please feel free to do so. I want to mention some brief statistics before we take a look at the resources available to you. In 2020, 81,160 people were considered food insecure in Gwinnett. Even before the pandemic started, there were issues for some families in meeting housing and food needs, of course, but the pandemic has highlighted those needs more than before. Additionally, in 2016, there were an estimated 1,943 students who were experiencing homelessness in Gwinnett. On the other topic, human trafficking has gained more attention recently, with signs being placed in public restrooms with resources for people going through it. In 2020, 338 cases of trafficking were reported to the Human Trafficking Hotline in Georgia. As I mentioned previously, first we'll look at the resources for people experiencing homelessness. But maybe you or someone you know doesn't really identify as homeless. Depending on the situation, it may not look how it's portrayed in media and on the news. Those negative stereotypes associated with it can separate you from the resources that might help. So let's go through some of the stereotypes and what the realities are. Sometimes it's easier to separate ourselves from uncomfortable topics if we use stereotypes, but regardless of anyone's situation or reasons, we should all have access to the resources to meet our basic needs. One stereotype is that all people in this situation live on the street. The reality is that only about a third live on the streets. The majority of people reside in shelters with friends or in their vehicles. Another stereotype, specifically addressing those under 18, are that they are runaways and tend to be rebellious or have substance abuse issues. However, it's more likely that one may have experienced the loss of a parent or already came from a situation where resources were limited, or they may have been kicked out or aged out of the foster care system. While there are many resources available to those experiencing homelessness in cities, homelessness is not only found there. As housing costs increase and job opportunities and compensation decrease or remain the same, people lose their ability to provide for themselves and their families. And there are other factors involved as well. The state of homelessness varies widely from person to person, just as their reasons do. People your age who are without a permanent living situation may still be with their parents, or their parents may be absent. Though it may be difficult to find and take advantage of some of these resources, specifically if you find yourself alone, I hope you will still find that 1 or 2 of them meet a need you may have. As I mentioned before, more resources can be found either through the GCPL guides or findhelp.org. Please pause on the screen to collect the information for whichever resource will be most helpful to you or someone you know. In this section, we'll look at the resources available to address the issues with food security. As the name suggests, food insecurity doesn't mean that someone's fridge or pantry is always empty, but that there may be times when it's difficult for their guardians to provide food regardless of the situation. While SNAP benefits are helpful for low-income families, I want to focus more on resources that you may be able to obtain yourself or those with less strict requirements. We'll look at those resources in the next slide. Some food pantries and providers serve certain areas or cities where they may also have income or identification requirements. If the resources listed here aren't helpful for your situation, please check findhelp.org to locate a pantry in your area that may be more suitable. There are many more options available than we were able to include on this list. For instance, if the Lawrenceville Co-op is too far for you, there is also one in Lilburn and another in North Gwinnett. Please pause on the screen again to collect the information for whichever resource may be most helpful to you or someone you know. For our next topic, which is human trafficking, this one is about getting out of a situation. If you don't know what it is, human trafficking is slavery, essentially. If someone is under 18, there doesn't have to be any violence or manipulation used to get them to do certain things for it to be considered human trafficking. So keep that in mind as we go through the next slides. Sometimes it's difficult to define the situation you're in because our brains and emotions want to downplay traumatic events as a way of coping with them. Here we'll look at how human trafficking is portrayed versus how it is. For one, there is a misconception that in order to be considered human trafficking, there needs to be some form of violence. However, manipulation such as threats or fraud are much more common. As I mentioned in the previous slide, a person under 18 can be trafficked without any coercion, violent or otherwise. Human trafficking isn't limited to women and girls. Men and boys make up about half of survivors. Those who are LGBTQIA+ are especially vulnerable. As a minor, even if you gave consent once or multiple times, it would still be considered human trafficking. Payment for an act does not exclude certain situations from being human trafficking, especially if combined with manipulation and/or violence. In the next slide, we'll look at some resources available to you or someone you know who might be in this situation. Some of the resources listed here in this program would also be useful for treating some of the symptoms for being a survivor of human trafficking. In the next couple of slides, we'll have more resources available that will help in this situation, especially the designated safe place locations. Please pause on the screen again to collect the information for whichever resources may be most helpful to you or someone you know. These are some general resources are for topics that may have been covered in one way or another in this program, but are also places for you to seek support. I mentioned Safe Space a couple of slides ago. You can visit, call, or text to locate a safe place near your location. One of the most frequent safe place locations are the QT gas stations. At that location, you would ask for help, wait for a representative to arrive at that location. That representative would then be able to match you with resources or provide transportation to the agency. They provide resources for any crisis you may encounter. So this means if you're homeless or in a violent situation or being trafficked, this is a resource that would be helpful for you. Whether you know someone in these situations or not, there are still ways for you to get involved. However, try to work with an organization as there may be safety concerns, such as with human trafficking. If you know someone facing these difficulties, you can connect them with resources that they qualify for. Sometimes navigating those resources can be daunting, especially with so many other things going on. If you're interested in volunteering, refer to the resources we've included throughout this program. The majority of the organizations listed here have a way for volunteers to contribute their time and efforts to assisting with their missions, whether that is packaging food, collecting goods for donation, or providing training. Reach out to an organization nearest to you or through an organization you're already a part of to see how you can get started. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope this program has helped, but if you need more assistance or information, please come to one of the branches and our staff would be happy to help you locate more resources that match your specific needs. And again, thank you for watching.